The galaxy had been at war for almost 20 years. Stars that once shined bright now carried the smoke of destroyed fleets. The proud banners of the Terran Union, humanity's united force, floated only in memory. One by one, the human colonies had fallen, and now at the edge of the galaxy, the last battle had ended in silence. The Xeran Dominion, a vast empire made of dozens of alien races, had finally claimed victory. Their fleets covered the sky of Varel 9, the last stronghold of the human defense line. The once green planet was now a wasteland of ash and metal. Fire still burned in the valleys where cities once stood. Human resistance had ended, or so the Xyrans believed. Admiral Krell Varus, the commander of the Dominion's invasion, stood on the bridge of his massive flagship. Through the wide viewing screen, he watched the planet below with cold satisfaction. "Transmit the declaration," he ordered. His voice echoed through the chamber, filled with pride. "The humans are no more. The Dominion has triumphed." Across the galaxy, his words spread through countless channels. Worlds that had feared humanity's stubborn resistance now celebrated. To most species, humans were strange creatures, too emotional, too bold, too unwilling to surrender. Many had wondered how such a young race could stand against the mighty Dominion for so long. Now they had their answer. They couldn't. The war was over. On the surface of Varel 9, the Dominion soldiers walked through the ruins of the last human command base. They laughed as they passed over shattered vehicles and burnt banners. Drones scanned the area for survivors but found nothing. They believed no one could live in this devastation. But deep beneath the rubble in the old maintenance tunnels of the base, a faint light flickered. A man lay on the cold floor covered in dust and blood. His name was Captain Elias Ward, commander of the 7th Human Defense Regiment. His left arm was badly injured, his armor cracked, and his breathing shallow, but his eyes were still open. The sound of distant thunder reached him, the heavy steps of alien walkers moving above. Elias pressed his back against the tunnel wall and closed his eyes for a moment. The war was lost. His people were gone. Yet something inside him refused to give up. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small glowing cube. It was the size of his hand, pulsing with a soft blue light. This was Project Helios, the last secret of humanity. A powerful network core that carried the keys to the Terran defense systems and something even greater. Hope. Elias whispered softly, his voice weak but steady. "They think it's over. They always do." He stood slowly, his body shaking with pain. The tunnel stretched endlessly into the darkness, but he knew it well. He had helped design these tunnels years ago, back when Varel 9 was a thriving research world. Every step he took echoed in the silence. He passed broken machines, burnt data cores, and the bodies of fallen comrades. He paused for a moment, pressing a hand against the wall. "I'll carry it for you," he said quietly. Far above, the Dominion continued its cleanup operations. Patrol ships flew across the skies, scanning for movement. Alien engineers began setting up communication towers to broadcast their victory message to nearby systems. Admiral Krell personally oversaw the recording. In his speech, he praised the Dominion's unity, its order, its strength. He spoke of how chaos had been defeated and how peace would now spread through the stars. No one noticed that in the lower levels of the planet, old human energy grids were slowly coming online. Small lights flickered on in the tunnels. Machines long dormant began to hum again. Captain Ward had reached the old power station. He inserted the Helios core into a terminal, and the system recognized him instantly. Identity confirmed, Captain Elias Ward, Terran Defense. Access granted. A soft female voice, artificial intelligence, spoke from the terminal. "Captain Ward, all surface stations report destruction. No living human forces detected within 20 kilometers. Awaiting orders." Elias took a deep breath. "Begin data recovery. Link remaining drones to my command. Lock communication to deep frequency channel 7 and show me who's still alive." For a moment, the screen was filled with static. Then slowly, a few signals appeared. Weak life signs, faint but real. Elias leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "There are survivors," he whispered. "Somewhere beneath the wreckage, humans still lived. Scientists, engineers, maybe even soldiers who had escaped the bombardment. Send a coded pulse," he ordered. "Let them know. Humanity is not finished." As the signal spread through the underground network, small beacons lit up in different tunnels across the planet. Hidden doors opened and frightened faces looked out. They had thought they were alone, that all command was gone, when they heard the coded pulse, 3 short, 1 long. They knew it was human. They knew someone was still fighting. Meanwhile, above the surface, the Zyran soldiers began to experience strange malfunctions. Patrol drones disappeared from their trackers. Cargo shuttles failed to return. A few communication towers went offline without warning. Admiral Krell dismissed these as technical errors. Old human systems, he said carelessly. They are unstable. Nothing to worry about. But one of his officers, a younger Zyran named Riva, wasn't so sure. Sir, she said carefully, there are readings in the lower tunnels. Power signatures. It looks like someone is turning their systems back on. Krell turned sharply, his expression annoyed. Impossible. The planet is secured. You're seeing aftershocks from the bombardment. Riva hesitated. Yes, sir, she said quietly, but her instincts told her otherwise. Down below, Elias Ward found a small group of survivors, 5 humans, all exhausted but alive. Among them was Dr. Mira Solon, a scientist who had once worked on the Helios project. When she saw Elias, her eyes filled with disbelief. You're alive, she breathed. We thought everyone was gone. Not yet, Elias said with a faint smile. We still have work to do. Together, they repaired the power grid and restored limited communication. The tunnels filled with the soft hum of machines. For the first time in weeks, hope touched their hearts again. That night, the small group gathered around an old holomap of the planet. Elias pointed to the main communication hub on the surface. If we can reach this, he said, we can send a signal beyond the system. Let the colonies know there's still a chance. Dr. Mira frowned. The hub is in Dominion hands. They'll have guards everywhere. Elias nodded. I know, that's why we'll move carefully. They think we're dead. That's our advantage. Silence followed. The others exchanged glances. Tired, uncertain, but slowly, determination replaced fear. Elias looked at each of them in turn. They declared victory, he said quietly. Let's make them regret it. At dawn, far above the surface, Admiral Krell received his final report. All resistance cleared, his officers said. Planet secured. Krell smiled proudly. Prepare the message to Central Command. The Terran War is over. And across the galaxy, that message spread like fire. Alien worlds celebrated. News anchors on hundreds of planets repeated the same words. The human race has fallen. The Dominion stands eternal. But in the deep tunnels of Varel 9, a single human light continued to shine. Elias Ward watched the flickering hologram of the enemy broadcast. He didn't look broken or defeated. He looked calm. He turned to his small team and said quietly, let them celebrate. They don't know what's coming. Outside thunder rolled through the scorched skies. The world seemed dead, but beneath its surface, humanity was already preparing to rise again. And so began the story of how one man, one survivor, would turn a fallen world into a symbol of hope, a reminder to the entire galaxy that humanity never truly dies. The days passed quietly on Varel 9. The smoke above the ruined cities had begun to fade, and the Zyran Dominion was busy building their new command centers. Towering alien ships hovered over the planet, shining their bright searchlights on the ground below. To the aliens, it was over. Humanity had fallen. But under their feet in the old tunnels and forgotten chambers, something was waking up. Captain Elias Ward stood in front of a dim, holographic screen. His uniform was torn, his face pale from exhaustion, but his eyes burned with purpose. Around him, the small group of survivors worked quietly. Dr. Mira Solon checked old generators, while 2 engineers reactivated communication lines that had been dead for months. The room hummed with faint energy. For the first time since the invasion, the humans had power, light, and direction. Elias looked at the glowing map of the planet. Red dots marked Zyran bases and blue ones showed their tunnels. They're spreading fast, he said. But we can use that. Every new base they build means more supplies we can take. Dr. Mira adjusted her glasses and frowned. And more soldiers to fight. Elias smiled slightly. Then we'll make them think they're fighting ghosts. Above ground, the Zyrans celebrated what they called the final victory. Large banners of the Dominion fluttered across ruined human cities. Governor Tazrin, a tall alien with scaled skin and golden eyes, stood before a crowd of soldiers. He raised his arm and shouted, "Today marks the end of human defiance. This planet will become the jewel of the Dominion." The soldiers cheered. They believed him. They had no reason to doubt their power, but that night something strange happened. One of the Xeran patrol team's 5 soldiers traveling near the old city of New Horizon vanished. Their last message was a short, panicked call for help, filled with static. When reinforcements arrived, they found the patrol vehicle burnt out and empty. No bodies, no fight marks, just gone. Governor Tazrin ordered an investigation, but nothing was found. His officers blamed unstable human machinery. Old human traps, they said. Nothing more. Still, the governor couldn't shake the unease in his mind. The next day, another patrol disappeared. Then a supply convoy never reached its destination, and one of the new watchtowers shut down suddenly after midnight. Whispers spread among the alien troops. They spoke in low voices about ghosts of the humans, shadows moving in the dark, machines that came alive on their own. The Xerans laughed at the rumors during the day, but at night, when they heard the distant echo of footsteps or saw flickering lights in the fog, fear settled in their hearts. Far below the surface, the truth was much simpler. Elias and his small team had repaired several old Terran combat drones, machines that could move quietly through tunnels and strike with precision. Using salvaged parts, the humans reprogrammed them and painted them black. They didn't have many, just 7, but they were enough to confuse the invaders. Every attack was planned carefully. No noise, no trace, just fear. Fear is our weapon now, Elias said as they watched another success report appear on the screen. They think we're dead. Let's keep it that way. Dr. Mira nodded, her expression thoughtful. They don't understand us, she said quietly. They think war ends when one side stops breathing. Elias gave a small smile. Then let's teach them how wrong they are. A week later, a Xyran command shuttle landed near the ruins of the main city. Admiral Krelvaris himself arrived to inspect the growing reports of resistance. He was furious. "I want answers!" he shouted at Governor Tazrin. "How can there be resistance when every human on this planet is supposed to be dead?" Tazrin bowed slightly. "Sir, we found no proof of survivors. Perhaps there are leftover machines, uncontrolled defense systems." Krell's sharp eyes narrowed. "Machines don't plan ambushes. Machines don't steal our supplies. Someone is alive down there." He turned to his guards. "Double the patrols. Seal every tunnel. I want every inch of this planet scanned. No one leaves this world alive." The orders were strict. Patrols increased, scanners swept the ground, and drones searched every crater. Yet somehow every night something still went wrong. A ship would lose contact. A watchtower would shut down. A patrol would vanish, and every morning the Xyrans would find strange symbols scratched into walls. Simple human marks. A circle with a line through it. A signal of defiance. The soldiers began to whisper again. The humans are still here. Back underground, Elias and Mira were building something new. A hidden network linking every human survivor on the planet. Using old mining transmitters, they created a communication system that bypassed Xeran scanners. One by one, other survivors began to answer. Small voices came through the static. "This is Shelter 3. We're alive. This is Outpost Red. We can fight. We never surrendered." Elias listened to each one, his heart heavy but proud. "Hold your ground," he told them. "We're not ghosts. We're humanity, and we're coming back." As their numbers grew, they started to recover weapons and supplies. Old human vehicles were repaired, and drones were refitted for scouting. They learned how to jam the Xyran sensors and hide from their heat scans. Every success brought them closer to one goal: taking back their world. Dr. Mira often asked Elias how he managed to keep his faith after so much loss. He would answer with a calm smile, "Because I saw what humans can do when everything seems impossible. We don't survive because we're the strongest. We survive because we refuse to stop." One night, while Elias was checking a sensor grid, a signal blinked on the screen. Something unusual. It wasn't from a human base, but from space. A faint human code repeating every few seconds. Mira leaned closer. "Is that a Terran signal?" Elias nodded slowly. "It's old, but yes. Maybe a lost satellite, or maybe someone's out there listening." Hope filled the room. If they could reach that signal, they might be able to contact someone beyond Virel 9. Maybe even another surviving fleet. Elias turned to his team. "We need the main communication hub on the surface. That's our way out." Everyone went silent. The hub was deep inside the Dominion's new capital base. guarded by hundreds of alien soldiers. Getting there would be nearly impossible, but Elias only said, "Impossible is what humans do best." The following days were spent preparing. They mapped the tunnels leading toward the capital and created decoys to distract the aliens. Small drone attacks continued to confuse the Dominion, making them believe the humans were scattered and unorganized. Meanwhile, in the tunnels, the humans were closer than ever to unity. They shared stories, food, and memories of Earth, the home none of them had seen in years. Dr. Mira often spoke softly to a group of young survivors. "One day," she said, "we'll see the sunlight again. Maybe not the same sun, but one that shines for us." Her words gave them strength. They began to call their secret base the Dawn, a name that carried meaning for all of them. Up above, Admiral Krell grew more restless. The strange attacks had now spread to other parts of the planet. His commanders feared a larger resistance. In a meeting, one of them said, "Sir, perhaps we should pull back and bombard the tunnels." Krell slammed his fist on the table. "No, I want proof. I want to look one of these humans in the eyes before I erase their species completely." But he would soon learn that humans didn't wait to be found. 2 nights later, the first major human counterattack began. Using reprogrammed drones and scavenged explosives, Elias's team hit a supply depot near the capital. The explosion lit the sky like a second sunrise. Zyran patrols rushed to respond, but they found nothing, just burning crates and the same symbol painted on the walls, a circle with a line through it. For the first time, the Dominion soldiers felt something new: fear. Governor Tazran reported the event to Admiral Krell with trembling hands. They struck our base, sir." Krell's eyes darkened. "Then they're no longer ghosts. They're soldiers." Deep underground, Elias watched the flames from a hidden tunnel screen. His people were tired, hungry, and wounded, but smiling. Dr. Mira stood beside him. "You've done it," she said softly. "They'll know now. They'll know humans are still fighting." Elias looked toward the distant lights in the sky where Zyran ships hovered like silent predators. "This is just the beginning," he said. "They thought victory meant silence, but we're the storm that follows." He turned back to his people. "Get ready. We move toward the communication hub next. The galaxy thinks we're gone. Let's remind them who we are." Outside, thunder rolled across the dark horizon once more. The Dominion's victory celebration had ended. The silence before the storm was over. The planet Virel Nive no longer slept peacefully. Every night new explosions shook the dark sky. Patrols went missing. Supply lines broke. The Zyran Dominion had won the war, but now they were losing control. And in the deep tunnels below the planet's scorched surface, humanity was rising again. Captain Elias Ward stood before a group of survivors inside their underground base, the Dawn. Faint light flickered from broken lamps, and the walls hummed with old machinery. There were now more than 40 survivors: soldiers, engineers, miners, and even a few children. Elias spoke calmly but firmly. "They believe we're small, that we're weak. But we have something they don't: hope. And hope spreads faster than fear." Dr. Mira Solon stood beside him, holding a small tablet showing holographic maps. "We've reconnected 6 tunnels and restored contact with 2 more colonies," she said. "They're alive, Captain. Other humans made it." The room filled with whispers of surprise and relief. After so many months of silence, knowing others had survived was like breathing air again. Elias smiled faintly. "Then it begins. Humanity isn't just surviving, it's returning." Far above, in the Dominion command tower, Admiral Krell Varys watched his screens with growing frustration. The reports were endless: missing patrols, damaged bases, unexplained power surges. He turned to Governor Tazran, who stood nervously nearby. "You promised me control," Krell said coldly. "Instead, I see chaos." Tazran bowed deeply. "Admiral, I assure you, we are doing everything possible. These attacks are unpredictable. They appear, strike, and vanish." Krell's eyes narrowed. "That's because you're fighting humans. They don't fight by our rules." He had faced humans before, decades ago, when the first wars began. He remembered their tactics: small, mobile, clever, and always personal. Even when outnumbered, they refused to surrender. Now he realized the same spirit had returned. Down below, Elias and his team continued building their hidden network. Every surviving colony, bunker, and shelter was connected through coded transmissions. They called it the Helios Web, using fragments of the old Project Helios system. Each day brought new voices. This is Vega Outpost. We're online. Colony Epsilon reporting. 50 survivors. Ready to help. We hear you, Varel 9. Humanity still stands. The messages came from deep space, from moons and asteroids once thought lost. Some were faint, broken by distance, but they carried the same message. We are not gone. Mira looked at Elias, her eyes shining. Do you realize what this means? We're not alone anymore. Elias nodded slowly. It means the galaxy's about to remember who we are. As weeks passed, the humans grew stronger. Their engineers restored old vehicles, turning mining haulers into armored transports. Their scientists built communication relays using salvaged alien tech. And their small army, once scattered, now trained every day under Elias's command. He taught them old tactics: hit and run, misdirection, and silence. They didn't have numbers, but they had skill. Their motto was simple: if they can't see us, they can't stop us. One night, the humans intercepted a Dominion signal, a large shipment of energy cores being moved to the capital. These cores powered the alien fleet's defense grid. Without them, the Dominion's control would weaken. Elias gathered his team. We're going to take those cores, he said. If we succeed, the Dominion won't be able to communicate with half their ships. Dr. Mira frowned. It's risky. The convoy will be guarded. Elias smiled. Good. Let them guard it. We'll be gone before they know what happened. At midnight, the humans struck. They used old mining crawlers to move through underground tunnels and emerged just outside the convoy's path. As the Xeran vehicles passed, the humans released a wave of magnetic charges that disabled their engines instantly. Before the aliens could react, silent drones swarmed in, cutting power lines and disarming weapons. The battle lasted less than 5 minutes. When the smoke cleared, the humans had taken every energy core. Elias gave the order to retreat before the enemy could respond. The stolen cores would later power new transmitters and defense shields for the human bases. It was their first major victory since the fall of the Terran Union. When the news reached other human survivors across the galaxy, cheers echoed through underground shelters and broken starships. Varel 9 fights again! Humanity rises! The galaxy began to whisper once more. In the Dominion capital, Admiral Krell's anger boiled over. How can one planet cause this much damage? He demanded. Governor Tazaran trembled. They're not just one planet anymore, sir. There are reports of human activity from other systems. Trade routes have been hit. Even our allies are growing nervous. Krell slammed his fist on the console. Then find them all. I want every trace of humanity erased. But it was too late. The fire had already spread. Beyond Varel 9, alien species under Dominion rule began to take notice. They had seen what humanity had done, how they fought even after losing everything. It was something the other species had never dared to do. On the planet Arcan Prime, a small group of alien workers whispered around their fires. If the humans can fight, one said quietly, why can't we? And on the icy moon, Dralos, enslaved miners, began carving human symbols into the walls. The circle and line, the mark of resistance, became a symbol of freedom across the stars. The Dominion didn't understand it yet, but they had created a legend. Back on Varel 9, the humans continued to strengthen their base. The Helios Web now reached distant star systems. Elias and Mira often stood together, looking at the faint holographic map that showed glowing dots, each one a surviving human colony. There's more of us than we thought, Mira said softly. Elias nodded. And when the time comes, we'll all rise together. But deep down, he knew the next step would be dangerous. They couldn't stay hidden forever. To truly fight back, they had to reveal themselves, to show the galaxy that humanity had returned. One night, Elias stood alone near the tunnel entrance, looking toward the faint glow of the stars above. His communicator buzzed softly, a message from an unknown source. The voice that came through was rough and broken but unmistakably human. "This is Commander Ray from the Aurora Fleet. We received your signal. We thought we were the last." Elias froze, his heart pounding. "You're alive? The fleet survived?" "Barely," the voice replied. "We're scattered across the outer rim. We can't fight alone. But if you've got a plan, we're ready." Elias's voice was steady. "Then listen carefully. We're building something here. Something that can light up the whole galaxy." The next morning, Elias told Mira everything. She was astonished. "The Aurora fleet was destroyed years ago," she said. "Not destroyed," Elias corrected. "Forgotten, like us." They both knew what it meant. The human fleet was still out there, waiting. As hope spread among the humans, the Dominion tightened its grip. They launched more drones, increased patrols, and began building an enormous orbital fortress over Varel 9. Admiral Krell stood on the bridge of his ship, staring at the construction below. "We will burn this world clean," he muttered, and with it, the last trace of humanity. But Elias was already planning his next move. He gathered his commanders, miners turned soldiers, scientists turned tacticians, farmers turned fighters. "We can't outgun them," he said, pointing to the map. "But we can outthink them. The fortress is powered through the star's radiation filters. If we overload them, the fortress will fail, and the Dominion will lose control. Dr. Sake?" Mira looked uncertain. "That's dangerous. If it goes wrong," Elias interrupted gently, "then we fail trying to live, not hiding while we die." The room went silent. Then one by one, the humans nodded. The plan was set. That night, Elias sent one more message across the Helios web. It was short and simple. "To every human who still breathes, we are not broken. We are not gone. The light still burns. Rise when you hear the signal." That signal would become the call of rebellion. A few days later, the Dominion detected strange transmissions from their captured satellites, brief flickering bursts of human code. Krell ordered immediate jamming, but it was too late. The message had already spread. On faraway planets, on hidden ships, in dark colonies, humans woke up to the same sound. 3 short beeps, 1 long, the mark of Elias Ward. And across the galaxy, others heard it too. Species once afraid to fight. The symbol of the circle and line began appearing everywhere, glowing on walls, carved into metal, painted across Dominion banners. The rise of humanity had become the rise of freedom. As Varel 9's underground base glowed with the light of preparation, Elias stood before his people. The air trembled with determination. "They thought victory meant our silence," he said softly. "But they forgot who we are." He looked toward the surface, where the Xeran fortress hung in the sky like a shadow. "It's time to remind them." And in that moment, deep beneath a ruined world, the forgotten children of Earth began to rise. Not as ghosts, but as legends reborn. The Xeran Dominion had gathered its greatest fleet in orbit above Varel 9. The sky burned with the light of thousands of warships, their metallic hulls shining like cold stars. The Dominion leaders believed this would be the final strike, the one that would erase the last trace of human resistance from the galaxy. In the underground command chamber, Captain Elias Ward watched the glowing screens showing the enemy formation. He stood straight, silent, his uniform worn and his face pale under the dim lights. Around him, the small human command team prepared in complete focus. There was no fear anymore, only determination. Dr. Lyra Miles, the scientist who helped Elias unlock the codes of Project Helios, adjusted the main console. "They are ready to fire orbital weapons," she said quietly. "Once they start, the surface will not survive." Elias nodded slowly. "Then it's time," he replied. "We activate Helios now." High above the planet, the Xeran fleet began its bombardment. Massive energy beams struck the ground, shaking mountains and turning the surface into glass. But under the surface, far below the destruction, hidden human tunnels remained untouched. Inside those tunnels, thousands of survivors waited. They had lived in darkness for years. Soldiers, engineers, children, and old colonists. They listened to the distant rumble of war and prayed that their last hope would work. Elias looked at the central core of the Helios device, a sphere of pure light held inside a containment field. The sphere pulsed slowly, as if it were breathing. "Power levels?" he asked. "Rising fast," Lyra said. "It's connecting with the solar network, just as the old engineers designed it." Elias looked at her with a faint smile. "They built it to protect, not to destroy. Let's make sure we honor that." The Xeran flagship, Dominus Reign, hovered in the upper atmosphere. Admiral Sareth, Vorn, leader of the Dominion forces, watched the bombardment with satisfaction. His sharp silver eyes gleamed as explosions flashed across the surface below. "End of their defiance," he said. "The humans should have surrendered when they had the chance." His second-in-command hesitated. "Admiral, long-range scanners detect strange energy fluctuations near the system's sun." Vorn frowned. "Probably human debris, ignore it." But the readings grew stronger. Soon, even the ship's navigation lights flickered. Communication systems crackled with static. Across the fleet, control panels began to dim. "What is happening?" Vorn barked. Before anyone could answer, the sun flared, a bright, magnificent burst of golden light that spread across space like a wave. It wasn't a natural solar flare. It was Project Helios. The flare reached the Xeran ships first. Every energy core, every plasma reactor, and every weapon system was struck by an invisible pulse. Systems went dark instantly. Engines stopped. Shields collapsed. The mighty Dominion fleet hung helpless in orbit, drifting like leaves in the wind. In the underground base, Elias watched the monitors as thousands of red enemy signals faded to gray. He took a deep breath. "Helios Phase 1 complete," Lyra confirmed, her eyes wide in awe. "They are blind and powerless." Cheers erupted in the control room. For years, these people had only known defeat and fear. Now, for the first time, they were seeing victory. Elias, however, remained calm. "Power is not victory," he said. "We still need to make them understand." Hours later, small human ships launched from the hidden hangars beneath Varel 9. These were old vessels, damaged, repaired with scrap metal and hope, but they carried determination stronger than any weapon. Without enemy defenses, the humans quickly surrounded the silent Dominion ships. Many of the Xeran soldiers did not even resist. Some sent surrender signals, others simply waited, unsure of what would happen. From the flagship, Admiral Vorn stared in disbelief as his own systems remained dead. He could not even contact the rest of the fleet. Then suddenly his main screen flickered to life. A human face appeared. "Captain Elias Ward." "Admiral Vorn," Elias said calmly, his voice steady but filled with quiet strength. "You declared victory too soon." Vorn's jaw tightened. You should not have survived. What have you done to our fleet?" "We showed you mercy," Elias answered. "Helios could have destroyed your ships completely, but we chose not to, because we are not what you believe us to be." Vorn stared, speechless. He had expected hatred, revenge, or chaos, but the human spoke with reason and calm. "You are outnumbered," Vorn said at last. "Even without power, the Dominion will rise again." "Perhaps," Elias replied. "But every empire that rises through fear eventually falls. You will remember this moment, Admiral, when your power meant nothing, and a single human stood in your path." The screen faded to black. Across the galaxy, the effect of the Helios flare spread further. Other planets under Dominion control saw the broadcasts, images of the mighty Xeran fleet floating powerless in space, defeated not by a weapon of destruction, but by human courage and intelligence. Rebellions began everywhere. On mining moons, alien workers threw down their chains. On remote colonies, captains refused orders from the Dominion Council. The message was clear. The humans had returned. Days passed. The Xeran fleet, still stranded, was finally forced to retreat using emergency jump drives once they regained partial control. The Battle of Varel 9 became the first great turning point of the war. Inside the human base, the survivors stood together on the surface for the first time in years. The ground was scarred, the air heavy with ash, but the horizon glowed with the light of a rising sun. Children who had grown up underground saw the sky for the first time. Some cried. Others just stared, silent with wonder. Elias stood beside Lyra, watching the dawn. "It's strange," he said softly. "I almost forgot what sunlight looked like." Lyra smiled faintly. "You gave it back to them," she said. "To all of us." He shook his head. "No. Humanity gave it back. Every person who refused to give up, every engineer who kept the machines alive, every child who believed we could rise again, they are the reason we stand here today." News of the human victory reached distant systems faster than light. Species who had once feared the Dominion now looked toward the humans with respect. Small fleets of alien rebels began sending signals of alliance. Even within the Dominion, cracks began to form. Some Xeran officers started questioning their own command, wondering if their empire's power was truly eternal. In the shadows of a broken universe, hope was reborn, and that hope carried a human name. That night, Elias walked alone through the ruined fields near the old city. The wind carried the smell of burnt metal and new rain. Above him, stars shimmered like diamonds, bright and endless. He thought of Earth, now silent and distant. He thought of every lost colony, every fallen soldier, and every innocent life taken by the war. But instead of sadness, he felt peace, because he knew they had not died in vain. Lyra's voice came through his communicator. "Captain, the new council wants to speak with you. They're forming a united command, not just humans, but other species who want peace. They say you should lead it." Elias smiled slightly. "Tell them humanity leads best by example, not by command." Then he looked up again at the stars. "Let's show them what the light of humanity really means." Above him, in the distance, one of the dormant Helios satellites drifted quietly through orbit. Its golden surface reflected the sunlight, glowing like a promise across the dark sky. The Dominion had declared victory. They had crushed cities, silenced voices, and erased worlds. But when a single human stepped into the light, everything changed. And the galaxy, once divided by fear, began to believe again. Years had passed since the Helios flare had stunned the Xyran Dominion. The galaxy remembered that day not as the fall of one empire, but as the rebirth of a species. Humanity, long thought defeated, had risen from the shadows, proving that courage, hope, and cleverness could outshine even the most powerful forces. On Varel 9, the planet was no longer a battlefield. The once ruined cities were being rebuilt. New towers, homes, and parks were rising from the ash. Streams had returned to valleys, and the soil, once blackened with fire, was fertile again. The survivors who had hidden for years now walked openly, free from fear. Captain Elias Ward stood on the steps of the new Central Council Hall, overlooking a gathering of humans and alien allies alike. Representatives of dozens of species once oppressed by the Dominion had come to pledge unity. Children ran through the plazas, their laughter carrying through the crisp morning air. It was a sight Elias had not imagined he would see in his lifetime. A galaxy beginning to heal. Beside him, Dr. Lyra Miles adjusted her coat, looking at the distant horizon. "You know," she said softly, "I thought we were alone. I thought humanity's story ended in silence. But now?" Her voice trailed off as she took in the bustling city. Elias nodded. "We were never alone. Even in the tunnels, even in the shadows, people never gave up. And now the universe is learning what humans are capable of." The Dominion remnants were scattered and powerless. After the Helios flare, every system that had once bowed to their authority had begun to rise in revolt. Minor fleets formed new alliances. Planets declared independence. Alien species who had suffered under years of oppression now looked to humanity as a symbol of courage and perseverance. Admiral Sareth Vorn, the former commander of the Dominion fleet, was captured and brought before the council. He had expected humiliation, defeat, and perhaps execution. Yet he found that the humans did not seek vengeance, they sought justice. Elias greeted him calmly. "Admiral, your fleets are no longer a threat. Your empire has crumbled, but we are not here to destroy what remains, we are here to rebuild." Vorn's golden eyes narrowed. "You spared me?" Elias nodded. "Because victory is not in killing the last enemy. Victory is in showing the galaxy that humans do not rule by fear, they inspire by courage." For the first time, Vorn understood that he had underestimated a species that refused to surrender. A species that believed in hope above all else. Across the rebuilt world, the Helios network still hummed quietly in orbit. The satellites, once hidden and forgotten, now formed a shield and communication grid for the galaxy's new alliance. Through the network, humans and allies could coordinate trade, defense, and exploration. Dr. Mira Solon worked with engineers from other species, explaining how to harness the solar energy safely. "The galaxy should never have to live in fear again," she said. "Not because we are stronger, but because we learned to be clever, to think ahead, and to protect life." Elias joined her, looking at the massive holographic projection of the network. "They thought they defeated us," he said. "But humans survive through intelligence, creativity, and courage. That's why the light always returns." In the months that followed, humanity became a symbol of hope. The story of Virel 9 spread through the stars. Every species, once frightened by human stubbornness, now revered it. On Aurora Station, a human survivor fleet, once scattered across the outer rim, reunited under Elias's guidance. They had rebuilt ships from wreckage, retrained crews, and repaired navigation systems. When they arrived at Virel 9, they were welcomed as heroes. The humans and alien allies celebrated not just the end of war, but the promise of peace. Festivals lit the night skies with colors never seen before, music-filled plazas. Statues were erected not just for soldiers, but for ordinary people, the scientists, medics, farmers, and children who had survived and preserved humanity's spirit. In the Capitol Square, one statue stood taller than all the rest. A simple figure of a human stepping forward, reaching toward the sky, a beam of light shining behind them. A plaque at its base read, "They declared victory," until a human stepped into the light. Elias walked through the square, hands clasped behind his back, watching people of all species mingle freely. Children played beside alien youths. Farmers from distant planets sold produce alongside engineers from other worlds. This was the life he had fought for. Not conquest, not power, but unity and hope. A young girl approached him, holding a small flower she had picked from a nearby garden. "Sir," she said shyly, "did you really fight all by yourself?" Elias knelt down and smiled. "No," he said gently. "We fought together. Every human who refused to give up, every friend who helped us survive, they all fought. You're standing here because of them." The girl's eyes widened. "So humans are strong?" Elias nodded. "Humans are strong because we care, because we never stop, and because we believe in the light." Meanwhile, messages arrived from distant colonies. Former human outposts, once isolated and abandoned, now connected to the Helios network. Each colony had its own story of survival, hiding in caves, repairing ships, or waiting silently in orbit. And now, all were uniting under one purpose: to rebuild a galaxy where life could thrive. Elias coordinated with fleet commanders, scientists, and leaders from multiple species. Together they formed the Galactic Alliance, a coalition built not on domination but on trust, cooperation, and shared hope. One of the alien leaders, a tall being from the icy moon Dralos, approached Elias. "We thought humans were fragile," they said. "But you showed us courage can outweigh power." Elias nodded. "Strength is not in how many you can destroy, but in how much you can protect, and in how far your hope can reach." Years later, Virel 9 became a hub of knowledge, diplomacy, and progress. Its once burnt plains were now covered in cities powered by Helios energy. Schools, research labs, and spaceports opened for humans and alien allies alike. The story of the uprising and the Helios flare became a legend across the galaxy. Children learned about the day humans refused to vanish. Students painted murals depicting a single figure stepping into the light, facing impossible odds with courage in their eyes. Elias watched one such mural, the figure strikingly familiar. He smiled, remembering the long nights in tunnels, the cold corridors, and the moment when a small spark of hope became a roaring flame. One final council meeting was held to mark the formal end of hostilities. Elias stood before representatives of every species, humans and aliens alike. "War has taken too much from us," he said, "but it also taught us something, that no matter how dark the night, even the smallest light can guide 1,000 souls. Humanity survived not because we were the strongest, but because we refused to surrender, because we acted with hope and courage, and because we believed in each other." The council chamber erupted in applause, not just for Elias, but for every human and every ally who had fought to make peace possible. That evening, Elias walked alone outside. Stars stretched endlessly above him, brighter than ever. Somewhere beyond the galaxy, the Helios network pulsed softly, a constant reminder that humans had reclaimed their place among the stars. He thought of the battles, the losses, and the countless sacrifices, and yet he felt no despair. Humanity had stepped into the light, and in doing so they had illuminated the universe with a new hope. The wind carried the soft voices of children and laughter. Humans and aliens walked together in harmony. The scars of war remained, but they were marks of survival, resilience, and courage, and somewhere in the distance, the sun shone brighter than ever, reflecting the promise of a new era, an era where life, courage, and hope were stronger than any weapon. A statue stood tall in the Capitol Plaza, the simple human stepping forward, into the light, a reminder for all generations. They declared victory, until a human stepped into the light. It was not a story of power. It was not a story of domination. It was the story of humanity, enduring, daring, and shining even in the darkest hours. The galaxy would never forget it.